looking at Xiaomi's, the Mi 10 Ultra. So this is the retail box, and I usually use the way that a phone is presented as a rough gauge on how much the company cares about it. So in this case it seems quite a lot, which makes sense because this Mi 10 Ultra is also Xiaomi's way of celebrating their 10th anniversary. Yes, Xiaomi is only 10 years old. So the first thing inside the box is just a card with what I believe is simplified Chinese on it. You've got the smartphone. This is clean packaging, a SIM ejector tool, and below that is a hard case. And it's not just plain, it is lightly textured, which is definitely an improvement. There's a headphone jack adapter, a USB-C cable for charging, and the most powerful charger you can possibly get on a commercial smartphone. And here's the Mi 10 Ultra. Ooh, also alongside the phone, they've dropped some pretty high-grade accessories with it. There's the official case, which feels like a nice quality carbon fiber material. There's a car charger, which I wouldn't normally care about, but this tiny thing can deliver a total of 100 watts of power. And then the wireless charger, to take advantage of the frankly ludicrous wireless charging speed of this phone. It's not cheap, but this feels super premium. And then, finally, in a slightly different direction, a wireless charging pad, which actually just has one charging coil, but here's the kicker. It moves to locate right underneath your phone, wherever you put it on the pad. Very cool concept. And to make this a little sweeter, this camera system has been ranked by DxOMark as the best in the world. A 4500 mAh battery, which gives, finally, a Snapdragon 865 chip, up to 16 gigs of the fastest LPDDR5 RAM, 512 gigs of the fastest UFS 3.1 storage, all cooled with liquid cooling, 6 stacks of graphite, and graphene. Chinese price of this phone is $760 Galaxy S20. So, what's going? Although it has taken a very different direction to Samsung and Huawei's offerings, it does look just as excessive and ultra. And the camera module, while I don't think it's the prettiest, does look badass. It does look like it means, you know, like the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. That phone has a huge camera bump, but even that sits in the top third of the phone. It means that whatever hand I'm holding it in, fingers touch it a lot. Loads games and apps quicker than I think any Android I've ever used. And I've been using this as my COD mobile machine, because it can play the game at 60 frames per second on the highest possible settings. The haptics when you're typing are pretty good. Its dual speaker setup is very good. But the one thing that I've been marveling at, which I wasn't expecting to be marveling at, is the software. It's running Xiaomi's MIUI 12, and I think the best way to describe it would be with the word artistic. It's gone down a very different path to Google's stock Pixel software, but I was surprised how much I liked it. I like the new fonts, the organization of the settings menu, and how almost every action you do has a corresponding animation and haptic feedback. You leave an app, you see its icon change. You uninstall something and watch it explode, sending a shockwave through the rest of your special. For starters, flicking between your screens, you'll see the background rotate. Okay, but then pop your phone into standby and it'll zoom all the way out of this rocky planet face to show you a global view. And without you even realizing what's happened, in that process it has seamlessly transitioned to its power-saving always-on display. And the whole thing even follows day and night cycles. Plus, I think Xiaomi have been really clever with the fingerprint scanner that sits just under. It's not the fastest, but when you place your finger on it, you feel like a soft. Because of the way they've done it, you don't notice the time taken as much. The main obvious downside is that there's just heaps of bloatware. Actually, we've got 4 cameras, starting with the ultra-wide. And fun fact, this is the widest camera I've ever used, with a 128-degree field of view compared to 120 on Samsung's. And as well as being more dramatic, I'd accidentally covered it in fingerprints. We've then got the main camera, which is actually, this phone is actually larger than the 108 megapixel main camera of the Note 20 Ultra. It shows. Photos are exceptional. Actually, very reminiscent of the Huawei P40 Pro camera, aka my favorite phone camera of the year so far. The colors are spot on, more natural than Sammy, and the photos are just very detailed with almost zero noise. Oh yeah, and the dynamic range is crazy good, even more noticeable if you drop it side by side with the Galaxy S20 Ultra. That just as Samsung fixes its year-long focusing issues by introducing laser autofocus on its seems completely fine with people and big objects, but try to focus on anything fine, like small flowers, and it just can't do it, no matter how many times I tap the screen to try and make it. It is, put simply, about as good as phones get. At any price, impressive 100x zoom on the S20 Ultra. See, that phone is using a high-resolution 4x optical zoom camera, and because it's high resolution, even once you reach its 4x zoom level, you can still zoom in a fair bit further without ruining the image. If I'm being really honest though, in practice, it's about the same. Don't get me wrong, the zoom is phenomenal. You can zoom 30 times into a sign and very clearly read it. But I'm just saying, compared to the Galaxy S20 Ultra, you probably won't tell much of a difference. And it allows you to pick basically any combination of 2 different cameras on this phone, including the front camera, and record them at the same time. That leaves us with the final camera, which is just a 2x optical zoom. And this has 2 purposes. A, to keep your image sharp throughout the entire zoom range, not just sharp at one times and then sharp again when you get really far in, but also to take portraits, because portraits taken at 2x zoom generally just not as detailed as the main camera. Oh yeah, and it's got 8K video recording on both the main camera and the 5x telephoto. I don't think any other phone can do this, although you will need a very well lit environment for this to charge. And at this point, I wasn't really thinking about its charging speed. Probably means that you are trading some potential capacity for this ridiculous. One big caveat that would explain how it's so much more affordable. While it does go up to 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, the base model sits at a pretty uninspiring 8 GB plus 128. It still has a 120Hz refresh rate, which is brilliant, but it isn't adaptive, which means it can't adjust its refresh rate to match the application you're in, like the Note can. Plus, this is only a Full HD Plus panel versus Quad HD. On paper, its brightness should be lower too, but in practice I couldn't really tell the difference. If you want to get rid of Xiaomi's bloatware, you might have to start switching to a third-party launcher, getting 4G, 4G Plus, and it's a brilliant. This is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.